I've been in Santa Cruz, Bolivia for a little over 6 weeks now. And at this point, I have a pretty good idea of what I would actually spend here on a monthly basis if I were to live here long term. Now, I've been living very well here. I've been staying in a nice one-bedroom apartment in a modern building with a pool, gym, co-working space, quincho, movie theater room, all of that, right? And what I consider to be the best area of Santa Cruz and really the best area of the entire country. And I've been eating out pretty much every single day, right? I've been going to the best coffee shops, the best lunch spots, places to have dinner, high-end restaurants. I've also been actively dating while I've been here. And I've been going out regularly with friends. I've had a very active social life over these last 6 weeks. Basically, I've been properly testing out this city because I'm not just here as a tourist, guys. I'm really trying to figure out if Santa Cruz, Bolivia could be a potential long-term base for me. So in this video, I'm gonna break down exactly how much it's cost me to live in Bolivia. I'm also gonna make some adjustments if I were to be here long term and what you could realistically expect to spend in Santa Cruz in 2026. By the way, if you guys are new here, I'm Alex. I left the US in 2022. I built a location independent lifestyle here in South America through earning online income, and now I help other men do the same. So let's dive into the numbers. This is gonna be a cost of living breakdown for Santa Cruz, Bolivia in 2026. Now, I've been here for a little over 6 weeks now. It's gone really well. I really tested this city pretty hard. You'll see what I mean when I get into the details. So this isn't a bare bones budget that I'm gonna give you. I really lived well here over these last 6 weeks, right? I lived in a very nice, modern, one-bedroom, high-rise apartment, probably the best area of the entire city, of the entire country. I ate out almost every single day, pretty much. I dated very actively here. I went out with friends most nights out of the week. I used Ubers consistently. I went to bars, clubs, tables, dinners, social events. And the reason I share that with you is because the budget I'm gonna give you is going to be closer to the higher end of what I would normally spend here if I were to live here consistently on a monthly basis. All right, and I'm gonna break this down into rent, groceries, transportation, phone, laundry, health insurance, eating out, going out, dating, social life, pretty much everything across the board. So let's dive in. All right, so let's talk rent. So rent is usually the biggest expense that you'll have living in a city. In this case, it actually, I don't think it was my biggest expense. I think I spent more in another category, which I'll share later in the video. But for my apartment, my one-bedroom apartment here in Equipetrol was $575 a month, guys. $575 a month. They wanted a little more in the beginning. I did another video as far as like negotiating. I didn't really go into detail as far as negotiating, but if you're gonna live here in Santa Cruz, always negotiate. Bolivians are very, very known for negotiating, right? They're usually gonna start high. They're gonna be open to negotiation. About 85, maybe even 90% of the Airbnbs that I contacted were open to negotiation, and it was like something normal. It wasn't like anything, they were expecting it almost. So if you're gonna rent an apartment off Airbnb, which is what I usually do in the beginnings, what I usually recommend, first 2 weeks in a city, get an Airbnb, and then you can test out the areas, test out which buildings you want to be in. You can maybe start looking off market or look for more Airbnbs, but definitely want to negotiate here. This was a modern building with good amenities, one of the best areas in Santa Cruz. I did an entire video on this. If you check out my more recent video, you'll see the entire walkthrough of the apartment. But I think for the quality, for the location, for what I got, for the amenities, for how modern everything is here, this is great value, all right? This is probably one of the biggest reasons why Santa Cruz stands out is the value that you get here, is the purchasing power that you get here. I'm considering renting an apartment here year round. I haven't made that decision yet, but why not? I mean, if I could get a really nice apartment off Airbnb, if I were to go off Airbnb, I'd probably use an agent. I'd probably pay them a small commission to find me what I want ideally, and I can just rent that out year round. Maybe live here for a certain amounts out of the year, work on my residency, getting permanent residencies here if that's what I want to do. And then, and just rent it out when I'm not here, right? I'm strongly considering doing that here in Santa Cruz. This is one of the biggest reasons why it stands out is the purchasing power. In a lot of other Latin American cities, even in South America, guys, like a similar apartment to this is going to cost me more. Like let's use Asuncion, for example. If I'm living in the best neighborhoods, Recoleta, Villa Mora, Las Lomas in Asuncion, the same apartment is going to cost me probably at least over a G. So I think rent is one of the strongest value categories in Santa Cruz. And let's move into the next one. All right, so groceries. Groceries, I spent about $200 a month when it's all said and done. I didn't really cook too much here. I mean, I did cook, the basics, right? Eggs, some meat to go like inside the omelets, some bread. I buy a lot of water here. I don't drink from the tap water here. Liquids such as, juices or agua con gas or Sprite to go with cocktails because I like to prepare cocktails, especially if I'm having like people over. basic necessities, household items, all the stuff you're gonna need when you're living here months out of the year. Just really the basic necessities, I spent about $200 a month. All right, and this wasn't a high protein grocery budget, right? I wasn't buying a ton of steak. I wasn't buying a lot of chicken, fish, protein powder even. Just because I was eating out pretty much on the daily. I didn't really cook much here, but I still have to buy necessities, right? So I think groceries are affordable. I think this number would be a little higher if I were to cook here more often, if I were to have a high protein diet. My eating out budget would be a little less. My going out budget would be a lot less, but my grocery budget might be around $250, $300 for me personally. That's how I spend. Most of you are probably going to be around the $150 to $200 a month mark, I think, when it comes to groceries. Now, transportation, I spent a little bit on the higher end, about $150 a month using Ubers. There are other options that I could use here that are more affordable. But again, just for 6 weeks, I mean, I don't want to have to download different apps. But popular ones are InDrive. Yango is very affordable here. It's what most of the locals use. But I spent about $150 a month. Obviously, I didn't have a car, no motorcycle. I didn't use public transportation. I just used Ubers. This number was higher because, again, I was actively dating. I was going out a lot. So if I were to live here longer term, I could easily cut this back to under $100 a month, maybe even $50, $70 a month, right? If I were locked in. And the reason for that is because when you live in the right neighborhood, right? When you're in a place where you have everything walking distance, it reduces the need for transportation, unless you want to go outside of your zone, or maybe you want to do some touristy stuff outside of the city. So again, you don't need a car, you don't need a motorcycle if you live in the best areas, but Ubers will add up if you're dating or if you're going out very often. So I think most of you will probably be around $50, $75 a month when it comes to using Ubers here, or maybe even cheaper if you were to use one of the other apps that exist here when it comes to ride shares. Now phone. So phone here was a little bit of a hassle, to be honest with you. I spent about $10, $15 a month for it. I got set up with Tigo. In Paraguay, in Colombia, and other countries, I used Claro. But here, Tigo seems to be the best option. I don't even think Claro exists here. That's why I didn't use it. Claro doesn't even exist here. You have Tigo, you have other options, but Tigo seems to be the best one. So how it worked, they set me up with a prepaid card that I have to recharge every 10 days, or roughly 10 to 14 days, which is annoying because I have to go to a pharmacy or I have to go to the Tigo store to buy. Basically, I bought like a physical card, and then I have to recharge it that way. I guess I can do it online as well. I'll probably look into a better option long-term for this. I'm sure there's services out there. Maybe I spend, I don't know, $60. I'm willing to spend a lot more than $10, $15 a month just for the convenience of not having to replenish my data every single month. But if I were to get residency here, if I were to live here, I'd probably be on a monthly plan, right? Of course. So just so you know, phone's gonna be very affordable, especially when you use Tigo here, but you're just gonna have to replenish it every couple weeks or so, which can get annoying. Laundry and dry cleaning, right? Laundry is something that I do on a weekly basis, so I figured I'd add it in here. We'll include cleaning as well. I did get a weekly cleaning here. So cleaning's about, I don't know, how much did the cleaning cost me? It cost me about $10 to clean the entire apartment, which is a 1-bedroom apartment. So cleaning's gonna cost me $10 a month. Laundry was a very small expense. I have laundry in the unit, so it washes, it doesn't dry. I basically wash it, I put it out on the rack on my balcony out here so that it dries. And then when you factor in cleaning, you're probably spending about $15 a month. I had a dry cleaning here because some of my nicer clothes, like some of my nicer shirts I like to wear, I don't wash it myself. I bring it to a dry cleaner, which they have plenty of options here for that as well. Very affordable, right? When I was in Buenos Aires, I remember spending like $30, like $25, $30 to wash the same clothes that I did here. So it's about 1/5 the price. But again, when you factor in cleaning, laundry, I spent about $15 a month. So health insurance, I spend about $56 a month consistently when it comes to international health insurance. It covers me anywhere in South America. For emergencies only is why I have this. I haven't had to use it yet, thankfully. I basically pay out of pocket each and every time. So this is what I recommend for most of you guys as well. If you're a single guy, if you're just taking care of yourself, all you really need is emergency health insurance in case for any major accident, something like that were to happen, God forbid. But while you're in the country, if you need to go to a hospital or an emergency room, I just recommend paying out of pocket. I've never had any issues paying substantial fees. I will say this, here in Santa Cruz was a little different than most other places I've been to. I mean, I've been to the hospitals in Mexico, in Colombia, in Paraguay even. And here in Santa Cruz, I think it was more expensive than all of those places. So I spent a few $100. I mentioned in another video, I had a skin abscess, a spider bit me back when I was in Paraguay. And I was considering staying in Paraguay for a little while longer because I'm familiar with the hospitals there. I'm familiar with the doctors. I'm familiar with the process, the expenditures. But I decided to bite the bullet and just come to Bolivia so I can experience the healthcare system here, which I'm glad I did, even though it did cost me more than what I would have spent in Paraguay. So I spent about $300 in total. This included a consultation, which is actually about 3 times more than what I would normally spend in Paraguay. Paraguay, I go to a certain hospital, maybe spend $20 for a consultation, and then they'll recommend me to, to get blood tests or whatever it is I got to do, right? Whatever the process is, I start with a consultation. for 20 bucks. Here, it cost me about $60, I believe, just for the consultation. And then for the emergency room visits, they're basically when you have a skin abscess, they have to cut it open, and then you have to do they call it curaciones. So every single day I have to basically someone has to clean it, and they have to rebandage it and things like that. Each one of those visits cost me I forget the exact amount, but all in all, it cost me about $300 total to do the consultation, the emergency room visits, getting the skin abscess cut and cleaned, follow-ups, including the antibiotics too. Which here, guys, in Bolivia, it is so easy to get any medication you need, right? There is no prescription needed. In Paraguay, I did need a doctor's prescription to get antibiotics, to get certain medications, which I'm not on any medications, but if you need it, you'll need like more prescription in Paraguay, but here in Bolivia, it's like the Wild West out here, man. Like you don't need prescriptions. I remember asking the doctor, I'm like, you sure I don't need a prescription to get, I forget what it was. I think it was whatever antibiotic I was on. And she looked at me kind of funny. She was like, no, you don't need anything here. So when you factor everything in, the antibiotics, the supplies to clean it myself, again, I spent a few $100s, about $300 in total. So I think it's about 2, maybe 3 times more expensive than what I would have spent in Asuncion. And I think the process was also better in Asuncion. I went to the best hospitals in Asuncion. I went to the best hospital here, which is called Foyanini in Santa Cruz. And it ended up being a little more expensive. And I think the process was a little better in Paraguay, just sharing my experience on that. So healthcare here is still very affordable. But in my experience, it was better and cheaper in Asuncion. Now, eating out. So eating out, I spent about $400 a month for eating out. This includes everything, right? This includes daily working at coffee shops, right? When I go to a coffee shop, I don't just buy coffee. I usually buy like a lunch. I buy food there as well. Going to dinners, high-end restaurants, right? Trying multiple places, eating out sometimes multiple times a day, not just on my own, but with someone else. Trying out different, I really wanted to try out different places that I would like. So this is one category where I felt like I did overspend consciously. I knew what I was doing, right? I was testing out different restaurants, different cafes. I was testing out the food scene. So if I were to live here long-term, I would definitely cut back on this expense. So just to know that I spent $400 a month is still very good in my opinion. I think eating out here is very affordable. I can eat out very well here every single day and still not break my budget. So I think this is one of the easiest categories that I could reduce. But honestly, I don't know if I'd want to. If I were to live here long term, what are my options? I cook every single day, a couple times a day. I hire a private chef to cook for me. Or I just eat out at really great restaurants for an affordable price. Some of the high-end restaurants, especially during certain hours, cost me only like $10 to $15 per meal. If I wanted to save, I can go to like a local spot where they're still making me a really good lunch with like, a few courses for maybe $3 to $5, right, per meal. So I really can't complain in this area. But again, for most of you or for myself, if I were to live here long term, I'd probably cut this back to maybe $250, $300 a month is what I think I'd probably normally spend. Now going out and social life and dating, this is where I also overspent than what I normally would. I spent a little over $500 a month. So it came out to about $520. And this includes everything. This includes going on dates. This includes dinners, not just for myself, but also, again, with a date. This includes going to bars, nightclubs, getting tables at nightclubs, right, with a group of friends, social events, saying yes to basically most nights out of the week to go out. So this is another category where I spent more than what I usually would. And if I were to live here long term, I would definitely cut this back. Definitely maybe 50, 70% I'd cut this back. I'd probably spend about $200 to $250, my normal lifestyle going out here, maybe, once, twice, max 3 times a week, something like that. Most of you could probably get by with just $100, $150 a month here, right? Going out, having a decent dating life, have a decent social life. So again, I think $520 a month for the amount of times that I went out for really testing out this city and what it had to offer, I think is very good. And the reason I would cut back in this category is not so much because of the budget, it's more so because of the productivity and the time, right? To actually just focus on my work and my projects and get better sleep, right? I didn't sleep as well that I normally would. I would be up at 3, 4, even 5 a.m. some nights, which really affects me the next day. So I'm someone who values my sleep. I have this Aura ring here, tells me how I sleep, right? So I would cut back mainly for that reason. I think most of you probably be around 100, 150 a month here. Me, myself, I'll probably be around 250, maybe 300 a month here if I were to live here long term and live my normal type of lifestyle. So my actual monthly total budget came to about $2,000 a month, guys. $2,000 a month. Again, this included everything. This included a nice apartment in the best part of the city, walkable to everything, eating out consistently, going to the best coffee shops, to the best restaurants, to bars, clubs, getting tables, right? Having an active dating life, active social life for $2,000 a month. This is the high-end version of my Santa Cruz lifestyle. So just knowing this to be true, I mean, if I were to be here long-term, I think I could cut this down to $1,500 a month and still live a pretty solid lifestyle. But I don't know if I would. I think I would probably get a nice apartment, I would live here year round. Well, I'm sorry, I wouldn't live here year round. I would rent an apartment year round for maybe somewhere between $500 to $800 a month to have, my office set up. Maybe put like a calisthenics gym like I did in my Asuncion apartment as well. Definitely go to coffee shops daily because I like going to coffee shops to work from. Like I don't always like working from home. Sometimes I need that escape. Sometimes you might meet people at a coffee shop. I'd probably be eating out at local spots a lot more because they still serve you really good food, healthy food for maybe $3-5 a meal. Maybe 2-3 times a week, I'll still go to a nice restaurant. I'd still go out, just not most nights out of the week, maybe 2-3 times a week max. And yeah, I think I would live here very well for somewhere between $1,500 to $2,000 a month for sure. This might be one of the few places where you might be able to live off $1,000 a month if you're someone who doesn't really do much. I'd say the low end budget is probably $1,000. I'd say the average budget is probably gonna be somewhere between $1,500 to $1,700. And then I'd say the higher end budget is basically what I spend here, $2,000 to $2,500. It'll be tough here to spend $3,000 or $3,500 unless you're really balling out with a really nice apartment. You're going to the best restaurants every day. You know what I mean? All that stuff. So I think the purchasing power here is probably the best that I've experienced so far. And hopefully it stays that way. I think it will stay that way. I'll give you some reasons why. Bolivia is a place where it is more difficult to get residency here. To get residency here, you have to live here for a certain period of time. All right. It's not like Asuncion. Asuncion, you show up, you get your residency, you can leave, right? You can just bounce out of the country. You can visit it for like less than a week. You can leave and then come back and get permanent. Here's not like that. Here you'd have to live here. The law says 9 months out of the year. That can probably be, with some exemptions, you could probably lessen that. But I think most expats or most foreigners aren't going to live in Bolivia for more than 6 to 9 months out of the year. And the maximum that someone can live here with just a tourist visa is just 3 months. Versus most other countries in South America and the Latin world, you can live in most places for 6 months out of the year if you just renew it for another 3 months. So as someone who is strongly considering getting residency here, who is open to the idea of living here 6 to 9 months out of the year, having a year-round apartment. Not saying I'm gonna do that just yet, but it is an option. I don't think the cost of living here is going to increase as fast as it did in Paraguay, let's say. All right, so final verdict. Santa Cruz, Bolivia definitely surprised me. Again, I lived in a great area, probably the best area of the entire city, of the entire country. I ate out consistently, I dated actively, I went out often, I used Ubers consistently, I tested out the city like it was a potential base within a 6-week period. And still, the total came out to about $2,000 a month. So for me, that's impressive because again, this wasn't me trying to save on a budget. This was me living more than comfortably. And if I were to be more disciplined, more locked in, more just my normal routine, I could definitely live here for around $1,500 a month, as I said. And that's what makes Santa Cruz one of the best value cities that I've experienced all over South America and the Latin world. So that's it for this video, guys. Thanks so much for watching. If you just want to watch similar videos to this one, then check out my most recent video I did on Asuncion, Paraguay in terms of my cost of living there that I had over the last 10 months. And I'll see you there.